Are you pretty much finding your places now? Okay. There are just a couple of things I'd like to read to you before we start the program. I've been hearing a lot from Gus's fans, and I'm very touched by how many of them really get him. This is from Rat Hall in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I wanted to also tell you, Jenny and Liza, as well, what set Gus apart. Any other musician or famous person to me out there, Gus was absolutely the most selfless human being I've ever known in life. I never got to meet him, but through him giving us so much of his time and heart that he spent on his live feeds, such as Snapchat, Instagram, to be with us, communicate with us, even after he'd worked all night performing at his events, showed how much he truly loved people. I don't know of any famous person that's let the outside regular people like me that aren't famous into their lives. He was completely unique, a gift from God that was handed down to us for a short period of time to change the world for the better. His big brown eyes and contagious smile will forever have a part of my heart. Thank you, Liza and Jenny, for blessing the world with the beautiful, loving, beaming creation of Gustav R. Then we have Jake Entrikin from Pensacola, Florida. And he has this to say. He wasn't the modern-day Kurt Cobain, by the way. He is the first and only Lil Peep. And arguably left behind a legacy that will have a far greater impact. His kindness will live on through lots of people, the genuine ones, not the people that didn't even really know him, and not the ones trying to turn a petty profit. Now, I'm going to try... Oh, I did want to just say a warm shout out to Damian Fitzgerald of Omaha, Nebraska, who is inspired by Gus to take great steps in his life. Right on, Damian. Okay, now I'm going to try to read you a verse of a poem by a wonderful American poet named Edna St. Vincent Millay, who kicked ass as a woman in the 1920s and did exactly what she wanted and became a fine poet. But this is going to make me cry. Down, down, down into the darkness of the grave, gently they go, the beautiful, the tender, the kind. Quietly they go, the intelligent, the witty, the brave. I know, but I do not approve, and I am not resigned. Thanks.
If you have 3/4 or more of $1, you could still use it, but a lot of people don't know that.
Hey, kid. Got the name Lil Peep because since I was a small baby, my mom has called me Peep. I don't know why. Peepers. Peep. It's just what she calls me. Pretty much everyone in my life calls me Peep, so Lil Peep.
Cause we only have one conversation a week. Can I get one conversation at least? Hi. Oh, you can hear me, right? Okay, good. Good. Okay, so this first, I'm going to start with a little quote which made me cry, and it's from a great book by Kate DiCamillo, and it's called The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, which is, you read that and you'll just cry and cry. And I read that out loud to the boys. We read about every night until they were about 11 and 13, just because we liked to do it. So the heart breaks and breaks and lives by breaking. It is necessary to go through dark and deeper dark and not to turn. So that's just basically the big idea of that is you just gotta go through it. Excuse me. In our shock, walking to get breakfast the morning after Gus died, Oscar and I tried to make each other feel like we were going to be okay without him. We hadn't really slept, but it was a sunny day, and we knew we needed to get out of the house and into the world for comfort. One of the things Oscar said to me was, "Mama, just think of what he accomplished in barely 21 years. He traveled to Russia, England, Belgium, France, and El Paso. I will probably never go to El Paso in my entire life." I mean, most people never get to do in their entire lifetime what Gus did in just 21 years. Many people have said these same words, more or less, to me over the past couple of weeks. Gus did it. He lived his own life on his own terms. He was a stubborn, driven, talented, crafty, observant, and tender young man. Gus was also vulnerable. He hurt terribly when his friends' parents said he was no longer welcome in their homes. Once he had stopped performing well in school and had stopped playing sports. Long before that, though, Gus understood that many good people suffered injustice because of what they looked like or how much money they had. He saw how the cool kids who lived in the fancy neighborhoods looked down on his friends who lived in the projects and looked down on his own family who lived in an apartment and drove an old Nissan. Gus got fed up with that world. He rejected it, and he rejected being molded into a box. Probably Emma, Ian, and Carmelo know more about why he began to feel that way. When he locked himself in the garage and got his first tattoo, he began to make his rejection of the box public. He dared the world. That's when some of his friends' parents told their sons and daughters they didn't want him to hang around with Gus. He cried when he told me about that. That's when the adults at the high school began to look at him askance. He set his jaw when he told me about that. With a keen eye for injustice, Gus raised the ante. He added to his tattoo. He pierced various parts of his face. His ears, nose, lip, eyebrow. The more tattoos and piercings he got, the more he was treated like an outsider. And the more of an outsider he became. Being an outsider, a reject, hurt him. He stayed in his room, barely mustering the courage to go to the library to complete the assignments necessary to get his diploma. And please, he graduated from high school, and he was on the dean's list the one semester he did of college. So, fuck the people who said he didn't graduate from high school. Sorry. That was an ad-lib, I apologize. And he did it because of his, he liked Mr. Balsamo and Mr. Petschauer, but he liked Mr. Balsamo more because he had tattoos. And he did it because of his love and gratitude for Mrs. Hartman, who saw him for who he was, not what he looked like. Years later, Gus told me that it was easy to tell the difference between the people who saw his tattoos when they looked at him and the people who saw him. Gus decided to move to California and left at 17. He tried to take classes, but few were available to an out-of-state resident. It was there that he discovered he could express his sorrow and joy and despair with his music. You may be surprised, you may not, but you may be surprised to hear that Gus and his housemates had a weekly Frank Sinatra night. His favorite song to sing was Fly Me to the Moon. And he was fucking good at singing it. When he returned from California, he began to make music at our home. My mother bought him some beats and explained to me why I should take this work seriously. So he and I drove to Best Buy, and I bought him a pair of fancy red earphones. He worked and worked and worked. He made me wear earplugs at night so I wouldn't hear him, but I did hear him belting it out. He worked like that typically through the night, going to sleep when I got ready for work. If you had seen Gus walking down the street, you might have been put off, scared even. You might have thought, what a loser, or yikes, I had better cross the street. If you had known he stopped caring about school, you might have thought, what a loser, and I don't want my kid hanging around with him. He could get into some bad habits. If you had seen his filthy fingernails, you might have run away. If you had made these judgments about this teenager, about this young man struggling on his own to find meaning as a man, then I ask you to use this moment right now as a time to reflect on your actions. Ask yourself these questions. Do I really know this person? Have I sat down face to face and asked him to tell me about himself? Do I know what matters to him? Do I know what he values? What hurts him? What he loves? And why? Am I assuming this strange or scary looking person has no plans for himself? Have I asked him his plans? Am I dismissing this person because he does not match my definition of a good kid? Do I assume he does not work? Be honest. Gus was. Gus wrote a song about wanting to burn his high school down. He didn't like most of the adults there. He despised the social scene. I say most of the adults. Most, not all. Must everyone fit into the box? Why must we have a box? Who is this box for? Can we reinvent ourselves? Gus has left us with so much to think about and learn from. I want to thank you all for coming here today. Please do not make assumptions about people or events in ignorance. Do you understand what I'm saying? Try to step outside of your own box and open your mind to new ideas. My sweet little peeper is gone now, but he has surely left us a lot of wonderful material to review and consider. He has left me with new people to know. I am so proud of him. You have no idea. so bear with me. Okay. I met Gus in 3rd grade. We were 8 years old. A close family friend passed away that year, and I remember I got to sit crying on the big comfy beanbag chair all day by myself. And Gus just kept coming over to me to make me laugh. He was the only person to cheer me up that day. I wish he was here right now cheering me up. By 5th grade, I was in love with him. We were so young. He was just so cool from the start. I mean, I've never met anyone who's colored their hair more times than me. Middle school came and we stayed friends. I remember he'd go on for hours making fun of the guys I dated. But no matter what he was saying, I couldn't stop laughing at it. Gus was able to do that. He was so funny, he would make you laugh so hard you wouldn't realize he's been making fun of you for the past 10 minutes. He'd make me laugh until I'd cry. I don't think it's physically possible to shed more tears for anyone. High school came, and we went back and forth, breaking each other's hearts. We'd date for a month, and he'd hate each other for 2. But he was always there, and he always reassured me how much he loved me. Even if he was pissed at me, even in the hardest times when I thought no one was there, he was. He was just always there. Senior year came, and he finally showed me some public affection. He was never too good at that. He kissed me in front of a whole party. I remember thinking, wow, we're really going to be in a real relationship this time. It didn't happen immediately, but eventually. He moved to California after high school, and so did I. He was in LA, I was in San Diego. He was living with Brennan with no job or money at all, eating only the Trader Joe's canned beans Liza would send him in a box from New York. I went up there every other week with my 2-week pay of $100. I was working for my sister. Let's just keep that in mind. I think the train ride itself cost about $70. I'd have to steal food from my sister's house and bring it up so we didn't have to eat those beans. I think he wore the same pants every single day that year. And for some odd reason, it never grossed me out. He'd step out of his pants that were literally molded to his legs. They were so stale they would stand up straight. And I never even flinched. I mean, that's true love if you ask me. He eventually moved back home to Long Beach. I think it took me maybe 2 months to run back after him. I might as well have just immediately moved all my stuff into his tiny room, because I don't think I slept in my own bed more than 10 times that year. I was glued to him. I hated working. I didn't want to be away from him, which was pretty strange because we did absolutely nothing but sit in his room every day. I'd watch him smoke the clips people left at his house the night before, because either he didn't want to leave his house to get weed, Ian wasn't around, or he had no money to buy it, which was usually the case. But he never worried about that. He always knew he'd have all the money he needed one day. He always knew he'd be something more. And I can truly say I don't think anyone who really knew him ever doubted that. He had to start kicking me out of his house so he could record. He would tell me he couldn't sing in front of me until he was famous. And then it all started to change. It started to happen. He started to have a fan base, girls started commenting on his pictures, and I started freaking out on him every other day. But no matter how much we fought, he wouldn't stop telling me how much he loved me. We'd break up, and the next minute I'd get a text from him saying, "I love you." He made it so hard to ever be mad at him. He'd tell me, "No matter what, Emma, you're always my family." And I didn't really know what he meant by that until now. I'd get mad at him and say, "I'm not your freaking sister, Gus, I'm your girlfriend." But now I get it, because I feel like I've lost the closest thing to me. But you know what makes it feel a little better? Knowing he's right here by my side. Knowing how much he hated to see me cry. Listening to his voice sing me to sleep. And knowing how much he loved me. I think he told me that enough times for all of eternity. But I still can't help but wait for the day I get to see that smiling face. Tell me how much he loves me one more time. I don't think anyone could ever forget a smile that big. Gus, I don't know if this will ever get easier, but I know with your guidance I can make it through. We all will. There's an empty hole in my heart, but with every single beat, I can feel you shining through it. You are my soulmate, and souls never die. You lived through me, you live through all of us.
Hello everyone, my name's Ian. I'm really nervous, but just bear with me. Gus created something out of nothing. Gus talked his entire career into existence. We would sit around in Gus's room, listening to his music, and at that moment, we didn't realize what an impact he would make. I always did think Gus had what it took to be a successful artist. And it is really still a shock of how much of an impact he did make. It's just crazy to watch it all come to life before your eyes. It felt like only months would pass, and Gus would be working with artists that he had always looked up to for years. And he'd been listening to their music forever. His career advanced so quickly, and it made me and all my friends so happy to see him succeed. When most of our friends would go to the bar or a party, it would just be me and Gus and a couple friends just hanging out in Gus's room, just smoking weed. Just listening to Gus's music. We would stay up all night, literally until like 5 in the morning. Liza would always come in every day, almost, and just tell us to turn it down. But Liza would never, ever be angry. Never once was she really angry at Gus. She knew that this is what Gus needed to do to move on in his career. She knew that showing him support and giving him as much freedom and support as possible was what he needed to succeed in his career. And without that, I don't think that Gus would have ever made it this far in his career. Gus worked really hard to get where he got. He stayed up until 5 or 6 a.m. every single day. Liza would always tell me that she would walk into his room in the morning and when she was going to work, and he would always just still be up working every day. Gus knew what he wanted in life, and he chased after it with everything he had in him. His style and creative vibe will never be duplicated. He lived the life of a rock star, and I know he wouldn't have wanted it any different. I'll always miss you and love you, Gus.
Hello, everyone. My name is George. I'm going to read a tribute from Dylan Mullen, also known as Smoke-a-Sack, which I gotta say, I had the sincere pleasure to have worked with him and Gus with Come Over When You're Sober. So, Dylan, I'll try not to fuck this up. Here we go. When I was just 18, I started to post my beats online from my home in Virginia. It was my first effort at music to get myself out of there as a producer and songwriter. The first person to reach out to me about a beat was a kid named Gus, who messaged me from his home in Long Island. He asked if he could purchase one of my beats to put some lyrics over. I was so excited that he was interested in my work, and I sent him a bunch of beats. He sent me back the songs with his lyrics, and I was really impressed. I thought to myself, wow, this kid is something special. I went to college to study audio engineering. A couple of years in, I decided school wasn't for me. I left Boston to move out to LA and give it a go with the music. A few weeks after moving to LA, I came across this artist going by the name of Lil Peep. I had no idea that this person standing in front of me was the same kid that I only knew as Gus. I never forget that moment. Never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined that years later we would both wind up in California trying to pursue our dreams. Once we put the pieces together of how we met years earlier, we decided to make music and come up with 19. We both knew at the moment it was our destiny to make music together. I knew Peep was a superstar from the moment I met him. I remember when we made Hellboy, he explained to me why he chose the name. It was because Hellboy came off as intimidating and scary to some, but Hellboy was like a book that was only judged by its cover. He was actually a superhero who had a huge heart, and that's exactly what Peep was, a superhero with a humongous heart. Gus knew no matter how close we were, even though he was my best friend, that I was still a huge fan. I loved his singing and his natural ability to write amazing lyrics. We fueled each other, and we loved every moment of it. Sorry. Still boring. When we recorded Brightside, I watched his body tremble. He was singing so loud, and the look on his face was genuine. He was pouring out his heart into these songs. I'll never forget these moments. His voice will forever be in my heart and soul. Gus loved life more than anyone could imagine. He lived to the fullest and cherished every moment of every day. He had the biggest goals and dreams you could ever imagine. He worked his ass off to get where he was. He had so much drive and ambition. He loved traveling, eating all different types of crazy food. Once we were overseas, he ate snails and octopus, which I personally thought was insane. Gus was very smart, creative, charismatic. He was such a character. He was super funny and outgoing around people. But the truth is that Gus was shy and really enjoyed just being with his close friends and family. He loved his mother, his dog, more than anything, and would talk about them all the time. He was Lil Peep to the world, but to us he was Gus. Yeah. We will always have each other's back. He comforted me when I felt broken, and I did the same for him. He always told me everything was going to be okay. He always made things okay for me. Not many people could cheer me up like Gus. I'd be upset if he could give me this look. It was so silly. No matter what, I'd start laughing. Okay, so let me just go over here. Sorry, Dylan. I'm doing my best here. All right, here we go. Gus truly loved life. His death was a huge tragedy for all of us. He would want me to tell everyone to support your friends, watch their back. If they're struggling with issues that are too big for them to manage, get them to seek professional attention. Do not try to find yourself finding answers in the street. Honor him. Give his death meaning. Gus, I always feel blessed that you were part of my life. I will never forget those looks you gave me, by the way. You always made me laugh. I will remember all the fun we shared, the way you made me feel good about myself. I'm so grateful how everyone reached out to me during this painful time to offer your messages of hope, kindness, and support. It means so much to me, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for the both of us. Rest in peace, my brother.
today marks 17 days since the morning I found out that Gus left us. I felt like I had gotten the wind knocked out of me, and I sat with my head in my hands for a long time. Gus was my student in 11th and 12th grade English. As a teacher, I have a unique opportunity to connect with young people who are trying to navigate their way through the gray area between childhood and adulthood. I have the opportunity to embrace their strengths and weaknesses, to make them feel important, and to learn from them. I remember when Gus was in class, he never really sat still in his desk. He always seemed to be bouncing or bopping, tapping his foot on the floor, drumming his fingers on the desk. As his teacher, I thought, this kid seems to be listening to music without wearing any headphones. It wouldn't be until later that year, after we had some time to get to know each other, when he told me of his plan to one day make music. And that's when I learned that Gus was a planner and a goal setter. I also remember when Gus finished reading The Catcher in the Rye, and he brought the book to me, and I figured he would say he liked it just to appease me. But instead he said, "I like him," referring to the main character, Holden Caulfield. And that's when I learned that Gus was connecting with a fictional character who was a little lost in his current setting, was highly intelligent, generous, honest, sensitive, and misunderstood. And it all made perfect sense to me. And I remember in the winter of his senior year, Gus couldn't wait to be finished with high school. He was frustrated and felt his creativity was being stifled. And we had long talks about his dream to move to LA and make music. I asked him if he was afraid to move across the country by himself. And he said, "No way," and my mom totally supports me. His face lit up every time we talked about his future in music, and I told him I believed he could do it. It was only a few months later that I would get a text from him saying, "I leave for LA this week." And then another text a couple of months after that said, "Can I use you as a reference for an apartment?" And that's when I learned that Gus wasn't only a dreamer. He was a young man who stuck by his word. A really creative, hardworking, and talented young man who set out to change his life, and he wound up changing all of ours in the process. He will live on through your memories and through his music. What a beautiful, amazing difference one life can make. Thank you.
My name is Travis, and I'm holding my grills because I want to tell the story about the time Peep and I got fitted for our grills together. And this all starts with when we all started working together. Sarah and I asked him, "What do you want?" He was like, "I want grills." Sarah's like, "What's a grill?" And I was like, "Well, it's gold molded to your teeth, and you wear my shoulder picture." She's like, fucking love it, yes, we gotta get grills. So she tells everyone in the office. We spend a whole day calling people, trying to find someone that can come and mold our teeth for grills. Finally, we get someone there. We're sitting in the office, and I'm going first. And it's weird when you get molded for grills because they fill your mouth up with this weird fluid, marshmallow, fluffy stuff, and it's really cold, and you can't talk. So me and Pete were just like kind of looking at each other like, And so we take them out after like 3 minutes, and she asked me, what kind of grill I want. And I said, just top and bottom, really simple. I just want white gold. Boom. Cool. Okay. She turns to Peter. She's like, "Pete, what kind of grill do you want?" He's like, "Well, I want a pink grill." So we're like, "Oh, cool. So like just white gold, it'll be pink." He's like, yeah, like that, except I want little pink diamonds on every single tooth. Like 10 or like 20 like pink diamonds, like a tooth. Like, so like the whole thing is just pink diamonds.
and everyone in the room kind of stopped. We all kind of looked at each other like, and the girl who was molding us, she was so happy, as you could probably figure out why. She was like, "Yeah, we could totally do that. 20 pink diamonds on a tooth." Okay, she was drawing it out. Needless to say, his grills took a lot longer to make than mine. But I think that's a testament about how fearless he was, and how he wasn't afraid to speak his mind and to say what he wanted to say, and to, achieve the things he wanted to achieve. And I think that's why he was so successful. He was also one of the kindest people I met. And, going over our texts, he said thank you a lot every time we talked. "Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Travis." Even when I didn't do anything, he said thank you. And I'm going to miss him a lot.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. When Gus started his music career, I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be able to get to share a stage with him. So this is really special. My name is Eddie Whalen. When me and Gus met at a young age, we were inseparable from the start. His house actually became like a second home to me, and Liza like a second mother. I actually owe Gus a lot of credit for things I'm interested in today. The music we used to listen to on Oscar's Gold Walkman, like Blink-182, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Good Charlotte, Eminem. And if my dad knew that I was listening to Eminem when I was in elementary school, he would have flipped out. But he never found out. So that's good. The style and sneakers that he rocked from a young age, at their house they always had a CCS catalog, and I used to go around in Skechers like a dork. But I would see the shoes on Gus's feet, and I would go to my mom like, "Mom, I really want those kind of sneakers." And thankfully she hooked me up. My love for the Yankees that directly clashed with his family's love for the Red Sox. That was a really fun rivalry to go back and forth with. The way he was allowed to curse in front of his parents, that shocked me. I used to try out curse words here and there just to see how they felt. I'm gonna keep ripping on myself. I used to wear my jeans my shirt tucked into my jeans, pulled way up. And Gus would never let me hear the end of that. And as soon as we became friends, that ended. The sum total of all of this is that Gus really introduced me to what cool was. Gus had such a style about him. And that's one of the things that'll be missed about him most. These last few weeks, I've learned what crying really feels like. And it's not the same crying that we used to do when we fucked up a skateboard trick outside Lindell School and busted up our shins. And it's not the same crying that I did when the Red Sox came all the way back in 2004. It's the kind of crying that comes from losing your other half in this world. And he was that thing to so many people. And looking out into this crowd, and I know there are hundreds of thousands of people watching online, and it's insane to know the impact that he had in this short life. Gus was our brother, and we'll all miss him forever. So thank you.
Thank you, Liza, Jenny, Oscar, Jack, Daisy, and everyone who's come along today and made this such a wonderful celebration of Gus's life. My name's Sarah Stennett, for those of you who, I'm sure there's lots who don't know who the hell I am. But I had the privilege of working together with my team at FAE with Gus as his business partner over the last 18 months. From the moment that Travis, who we saw earlier, showed me the picture of Gus, and I heard 30 seconds of 19 on SoundCloud, I was obsessed. I turned into a teenager. People in my office literally thought I'd finally lost my mind. It took me 2 weeks to track him down to a squat where he was living in downtown LA with some of his peers and collaborators who I'm so happy to see here today. It then took me a further week to persuade him to come and meet us because he thought we were probably two corporate arseholes and I was definitely too old and just wouldn't get it. Once I met Gus, I was totally captivated by this amazing young man with Crybaby tattooed across his beautiful face. We agreed to go on a journey together. It is clear to me now that our meeting was destined for a larger purpose. My team and I did everything we could to ensure that the world knew about this unique, brilliant talent of Peep. Everyone we introduced him to, from the famous photographer Mario Testino to my aging mother, was completely enthralled with him. It's easy to understand why. Peep was a fascinating contradiction. He had the ability to merge complex emotions into a single moment. He could be happy and sad, anxious and confident, self-conscious and brazen. He was just unapologetically himself. My daughter Rose described him like this. He embraced and accepted every human emotion without fear or resistance. He was not uncomfortable with his uncomfortableness. He accepted himself, and in the words of his friend Bexy, who I hope is watching, he was living, not existing. He was always passionate about what he was doing and was planning his future with huge excitement. He was aware of the enormous value of his ability to truly express his individuality and to use it to connect with others. He was unstoppable in his right to do that, a creative leader. I'm grateful for every minute of every day I had this inspiring young man in his life, in my life, and me and his. Being young is something the old want, and being wise is something the young need. Gus was both young and wise. He helped me in some of my own personal challenges, in particular my absolute terror in public speaking. Get up there, believe in yourself, just be yourself, and you can see today I can do that. He will live on in his music. His family, Chase, his manager, and the FAE team are committed to sharing the work that he's so carefully prepared with his collaborators in a way that Gus would have wanted us to do, so that the world can continue to discover the invaluable talent of Little Peep and why Peep has established himself, despite his passing, as the rightful recipient of the word icon. I asked his friend Bexy yesterday, what would Gus want me to say to his fans on Saturday? He said Gus would say what he always said to himself. Follow your heart, follow your dreams, do what you love, and believe in yourself. Finally, I would like to end by reading to you some of Peep's lyrics from his yet-to-be-released collaboration with his great friend McConan called I've Been Waiting, which I believe Peep would have liked me to share with you today. And they are, don't tell me I'm not doing fine, 'cause I'm doing fine. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
without you. Bother me, tell me awful things. You know I love it when you do that. Helps me get through this without you. Bother me, tell me awful things. You know I love it when you move that on me. Love it when you do that on me. You like attention. I find it obvious. She makes it obvious to me. She feels the tension. It's just the two of us. It's just the two of us tonight. Burn me down, tell 'em nothing but memories. I get it, girl. I get it, girl. Burn me down, tell 'em nothing but memories. I get it, girl. I'm not the one. Bother me, tell me awful things. You know I love it when you do that. Helps me get through this without you. Bother me, tell me awful things. You know I love it when you move that on me. Love it when you do that on me. When you do that on me.
I've been asked to ask anybody who wants to come up on stage and write something on this. This right here, right?
Write something on it?
Yes. And something nice, not something rude. So I'm just going to start, and then I'll hand the pen over. Try to be orderly about this. Oh, this is very difficult.